In episode 1 on this topic, we discussed the existence of giants in America and the cover-up of their skeletal remains by the Smithsonian Institution and by the global archaeological cabal at large. In this episode, I want to render further evidence of the astounding and undeniable fact that there were giants in the land we now call the United States of America. The very notion that there once existed giants in any part of the earth, let alone in the United States, is of course ludicrous to the vast majority of civilized, educated people living in the modern age. The truth is, we have an overly exalted opinion of ourselves in regards to both our intellect and the accuracy of our knowledge. We tend to believe, arrogantly and foolishly, that the level of our technological development is reflective of the level of our intellectual development. In other words, that the superiority of our technology demonstrates the superiority of our intellect, in contrast to that of our predecessors. This is obviously a fallacy, profusely evident in the zombified masses of Americans alive today, many of whom are little more than educated idiots obsessed with sports, smartphones, social media, and television. Unfortunately for us, the case can be made quite easily, in fact, that we are collectively the dumbest generation of Americans yet to live and breathe in this great land, precisely because of the technology that has made triviality the infatuation of our lives. Thus, while we are eager to swallow whatever trite the media establishment regurgitates into our mouths, even clamoring excitedly for it like hungry hatchlings, the difficult truths, such as the existence of giants, are repulsive to our minds and rejected as conspiracy. This was certainly not the case in early America, when even the common people were trained in critical thought and classical history before it was corrupted, and the land was still dotted with strange earthen mounds erected by a mysterious race of exceptionally large human-like people. Though the sensation surrounding the enigma of the mound builders has long been forgotten, copious records remain to prove their widespread renown. In fact, 4 of our most prominent presidents, including the illustrious George Washington, knew about the ancient race of giants whose feet once trod the soils beneath the edifices of our modern world, and commented on the mounds they raised to house their honored dead. In 1756, while digging the foundations of Fort Loudon, on a high mountain in Winchester, Virginia, during the French and Indian War, Washington inadvertently uncovered a repository of bones belonging to unusually large men who stood over 7 feet tall. Both Thomas Jefferson and William Harris conducted independent investigations on the mysterious mounds and the enigma of their builders. But perhaps the most provocative of all the accounts are the words of Abraham Lincoln, who, being moved by the majesty of Niagara Falls, was compelled to pen the following poetic verses. Niagara Falls, by what mysterious power is it that millions and millions are drawn from all parts of the world to gaze upon Niagara Falls? There is no mystery about the thing itself. It is also plain the water, thus plunging, will foam and roar and send up a mist continuously, in which last, during sunshine, there will be perpetual rainbows. The mere physical of Niagara Falls is only this. But still there is more. It calls up the indefinite past, when Columbus first sought this continent, when Christ suffered on the cross, when Moses led Israel through the Red Sea, nay, even when Adam first came from the hands of his Maker. Then, as now, Niagara was roaring here. The eyes of that species of extinct giants, whose bones fill the mounds of America, have gazed on Niagara, as ours do now. Contemporary with the whole race of men, and older than the first man, Niagara is strong, and fresh today as 10,000 years ago. The mammoth, the mastodon, now so long dead, the fragments of their monstrous bones, alone testify that they ever lived, have gazed on Niagara. And that long, long time, never still for a single moment. In his exceptional work entitled True Legends, Native American Tales of Stargates, Giants, Bigfoot, and Skinwalkers, Steve Quayle notes, Lincoln's account is interesting for 2 reasons. First, his reference to the giants is only made in passing. He doesn't stop to explain the reference, but rather assumes any American reading what he has written would be fully aware of who the species of extinct giants whose bones fill the mounds of America were. He assumes everyone is aware of the giant skeletons. Second, he mentions mammoths and mastodons in this brief passage. This is a key point because those claiming there were no giants in America claim people in the 1700s and 1800s somehow mistook fossil mastodon or mammoth bones for those of giants. But when one reads this passage, it is obvious that Lincoln, and one must assume other contemporaries of his time as well as the audience he wrote for, were aware of which creature was which and made no mistakes in identifying them. Americans were fully aware of the differences and recognized some ancient skeletons as those of giants, similar to human beings, only much larger than modern man, and others as belonging to offshoots of the elephant family. People in Lincoln's day were well aware that giants had roamed the Americas, and likely had seen, or known someone who had seen, the actual skeletal remains of these creatures. Knowledge of the mounds and what was commonly found within them, namely the bones of giants, was ubiquitous in early America. In fact, in 1881, Congress gave $5,000 to the Smithsonian Institution to conduct archaeological digs on the mounds in order to determine their origin once and for all, and to recover the artifacts within them. The expedition was conducted at breakneck speed under the direction of Cyrus Thomas, archaeologist to the United States Bureau of American Ethnology, whose crew excavated some 2,000 mounds and earthworks in just 9 years. As a result, the mounds were torn open with reckless care, destroying many of the bones within them before they could be thoroughly analyzed. All of the artifacts were summarily carted off and hidden away from the eyes of the public. As noted in the previous episode on this subject, special interests within the Smithsonian were determined to hide the evidence of giants in America for various reasons. Thus, upon conclusion of the expedition, it was declared that Native Americans were responsible for building the mounds. This was a dubious declaration and hotly contested, since the Native Americans themselves told legends of the mighty mound builders, legends which clearly identified them as giants. Even before the Smithsonian expedition began, many of the mounds had already been unearthed by farmers or townspeople leveling the land for development, and so stories of their incredible contents were circulating in the press. It was widely known that the mounds often harbored the bones of giants, and not just large human beings, but in many cases, a bizarre race of red-haired, six-fingered giants with elongated skulls and double rows of teeth, often arrayed in copper armor, possessing advanced implements of war, and surrounded by strange artifacts covered in mysterious hieroglyphs. Only a fool would have believed the fictitious narrative of the Smithsonian, but as is often the case, the lies of the few, backed by large sums of money and political power, trump the obvious truths, and ultimately fill the display cases of museums and the pages of textbooks. Reporting for SteveQuayle.com, I'm Timothy Alberino, and that's my analysis.